Good afternoon, everyone. Respected Chief Guest of the Day, Dr. Meghana Sharma, Director, Center for Women's Studies, Maharaj Ganga Singh University, Rajasthan. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the online interdisciplinary lecture series. As we all know, we are living and facing the pandemic, and online platforms somehow have turned out to be a very creative platform to discuss different issues related with academia and academic issues. First of all, it gives me immense happiness to welcome Dr. Meghana Sharma, Director, Center for Women's Studies, Maharaja Ganga Singh University, Rajasthan. And a detailed intro will be given by Mr. Shabimon. But anyway, on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to welcome Dr. Meghana Sharma, because she has given the consent to be here with us to deliver the inaugural talk.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to welcome Dr. C. Seidalvi, Principal, Unity Women's College, who quite often encourages to organize events of this kind. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Muhammad Ali. Good evening, everybody. Respected Chief Guest of today, Dr. Meghana Sharma, respected Coordinator of the program, Professor Muhammad Ali, and respected Head of the Department of History, Professor Shabirman, respected Head of the Department of English, Dr. Shahina Mod, viewers of the seminar, college manager, and my dear friends. It gives me immense pleasure and joy to be a member of this webinar with a modern and contemporary related subject, that is interdisciplinary lecture series. And I congratulate the departments of English and History for this venture. Thank you all.
Thank you, Muhammad Ali sir. Good evening, friends. It's a pleasure for me to introduce my friend and our guest of honor today, Dr. Meghana, who is going to talk to us on the topic, the real story of women empowerment, reflection from Indian history. With direct experience in the field of women empowerment and academia for over 2 decades, Dr. Meghana Sharma delivered many lectures in and outside India on various topics, especially on women, history, water, and environmental protection, etc. She was honored nationally by UGC and Government of India Enterprise for science fiction writing. She has experience as a news anchor in electronic media in Doordarshan and few other local channels. She has published books on variety of topics such as women's discourse, poetry, story, science fiction, and few commentaries. Dr. Meghana is an active member of various academic bodies, NGOs, and member of board of editors for many national and international journals. At present, she is the Director, Center for Women's Studies, and also a faculty at Department of History, Maharaja Ganga Singh University, Bikaner, Rajasthan. A gold medalist in journalism and mass communication, Dr. Meghana is a model for many women who follows her dream of working for the industry of women community. Thank you for being with us today, Madam. On behalf of the Unity community, I invite you to inaugurate this interdisciplinary lecture series and also to deliver your inaugural talk.
So let's start with women. Why women? Why do we talk about women empowerment? Every political leader, every stage where you go, they will talk about women empowerment, women should be empowered. Is women empowered nowadays or not?
More speaking, why women empowerment has become such an important issue these days? Why do we want to talk about women? Why the political leaders are talking about women? What is the real situation of women? And what was the situation of women since ages? history is, as the history of the people must be knowing, that it is divided between ancient, medieval, and modern history. And modern also, post-independent phases are also considered important these days. Thank you to please permit me to present my presentation. It is a PPT. You'll be able to look to some pictures and some slides and will understand what I want to present in front of you.
Go ahead.
The real story of women empowerment, reflections from Indian history. So this is the first slide. The second slide says, though Constitution gave equal rights to women along with men, the age-old deep-rooted patriarchal mentality of Indian society, women are still victimized, humiliated, tortured, exploited. Women are still subjected to the discrimination of social, economic, and educational fields. They were meted with ill treatment. We come across the cases of, as I was talking before, some perhaps you were not able to hear, that the cases of Priyanka Reddy, the cases of Nirbhaya, cases of so many Daminis, we don't even know their names. The identity has to be hidden, just that the society does not give torturous behavior to the families. This is the condition of women these days. But what was that in history? We will go ahead. In addition to this, they are facing so many problems, such as gender-based violence, rape, female feticide, infanticide, wife battering, dowry, deaths, women trafficking, and sale of girls, financial exploitation, sexual exploitation of working women and female students, honor killings, etc. This is the order of the present day. If any society wants to achieve comprehensive development of the society, half of its citizens, that is women also, should be given equal opportunity, equal treatment. What does the UN say? Due to the efforts of social reformers and UNO, all democratic countries in the world have laws were in of women equality, and opportunities were created for their upliftment. Here is a picture which depicts a woman, the first woman, she's holding a sword. The third woman is holding a pot. You see, this is a picture from ancient Indian civilization. I'm starting the ancient civilization from the Rig Vedic age. In regard Indian history, women's studies have a tendency to throw light on the broad terminology of women's status, which has consequently focused on a restricted set of queries. These queries, as well as their parameters, seek to explore women's role and positions in different socio-cultural as well as economic and political spheres of the country. The influence of Indian society on gender has varied widely over time and space due to the differences in socio-cultural traditions and practices. Since early times, societal structure has played an active role in stimulating change in women's roles and positions, but with time has also hindered the progress of the country. In this context, it is necessary to study and attempt to access women's status, framework, constitutional of course, of gender relations, to study ancient Indian civilization. Now you will wonder to know that the Rig Veda Samhita had referred to spinters as Amaju, They called Amaju. Amaju is the one who grows old in one's parents' house. After puberty, I think for the students who are here, all the girls, they must be knowing this word. Puberty is a period when they start getting their monthly period. The menstruation cycle start, and that is called that they are under puberty. After puberty, after it started, the completion of their education, girls had the permission to take up married life by selecting their life partners through Swayamvara. You must have heard about Sanyogita Swayamvar. It was in the medieval ages with Prithviraj Chauhan. You must have heard the name of Draupadi Swayamvar. You must have heard the name of Sita Swayamvar. Some conditions were kept, and those who fulfilled those conditions, then he or she, the princess used to marry the same prince who used to fulfill the conditions, which was put by the family of the girl's family, the princess family. In the Rig Vedic civilization, another important thing is prostitutes, along with their practices, they were never considered to be undignified or shameful. Rather, female sex workers were depicted as classy women without societal restrictions. In the Arthashastra, while emphasizing the legal position of prostitutes during the Rig Vedic period, Kautilya referred to several special classes of prostitute. That was Ganika, Rupajiva, Vesya, Pragati Ganika, Dasi, Devdasi, Rupdasi. Besides, prostitutes were also portrayed as being beautiful, talented, and prosperous within this societal canvas. Moreover, a broad understanding of sexuality through divine prostitution has been revealed in early Vedic society. Now here in the next slide, you can see some scriptures. These are our Samhitas, these are the Upanishads, these are the Vedas. Despite the existence of a preference, of course there was a preference for son, but daughters were always accepted wholeheartedly and treated well in early Vedic India, where the girls' education passed through the stages of Upnayan. Yes, you would wonder to know that a girl also used to undergo the ceremony of Upnayan, which is called Janev. A Janev is worn. It is what shall I say? Nine threads across the shoulder and across the waist. So you wear that. That is called Upnayan. A ceremony was conducted for their Upnayan and Brahmacharya, leading to the marital state. During Rig Vedic period, all genders will offer the privilege of equal educational opportunity to study the Vedic literature, and the role of women in ancient Indian literature became of great importance. Rig Vedic Samhita mentions several women seers and sages. You must have heard their names: Sulabha, Maitreya, Gargi, Vaishnavi, Lopamudra, Ghosa, Vishwavara, Vadava, represented renowned female authors of Vedic hymns. Some of them have created those dohas, those shlokas. Now, this is a picture depicting a theme. This is from Ramayana, and this is on the Thailand's palace mural, which is depicted on the palace wall of Thailand. I have been to Bangkok also, but I have never been to. I took this picture from somewhere, and then I came to know that when I went to Bangkok, I delivered my lectures in 2-3 universities. I could see that the woman out there was very empowered as compared to India. The women of Bangkok was pretty empowerment. She was, where like in Kerala. I will come in the modern period, like in Kerala, they have matrilineal society, and the parents like to stay with their married girl, their married daughter, instead of the son's family. Like we have in North India, after marriage, parents would like to stay with their son's family, not with their daughters. But like Kerala, it was their matrilineal families, and a husband I met, he was proudly saying that our home minister is my wife, madam, and I'm happy to see that. So this was the condition. So I took a mural painting from Bangkok, and I have come to the epic period now. The two great epics we know, Ramayana by Valmiki and Mahabharata, they depicted women as the root of dharma, pleasure and prosperity as well. The bride was designated as the queen of the house, whose position is supreme above all the members of groom's family. In Ramayana, ideal womanhood was well illustrated as glorifying the value of pati vrat, that is the devotion to one's husband, and has also idealized Sita as the best of womankind and the most esteemed aspect of Indian heritage. Sita has been symbolized as a devoted wife in Ramayana, representing the ideal character that all women were expected to strive towards. Now, again, the next slide shows you a picture where a woman is carrying a shield. Another woman who is sitting on a horse is carrying a bow and an arrow. That means Ramayana and Mahabharata offers a picture of Kshatriya women who also used to take part in wars to defend and protect their culture. Now the period 2000 BC to 647 AD, the period where the degradation began. Gender inequality had started to creep into society during the Dharma Shastra, Manusmriti period, and gradually women's position were degraded to such an extent that they were deprived of all sorts of freedom. Women were restricted in exercising their human rights. I will talk about human rights later, as well as being barred from enjoying fundamental freedoms. A preference for son was there, of course, in this period too, which curtailed the freedom of women and girls. Roles and position of women was gradually turned around. During this period, caste hierarchy and gender hierarchy were prominent, and the basics of our society, they were getting poorer and poorer. Now we come to the Middle Ages. We know the Middle Age is divided into two parts, that is the Sultanate period, that is pre-Mughal era, and Mughal era. So what was the condition in pre-Mughal era? Parda system. During the Sultanate period, social status of women, both in Hindu and Muslim communities, was very low. She was regarded as the property of men. Female belonging to the nobility observed Parda and were rarely allowed to go outside the house. Firoz Shah Tughlaq prohibited women from even visiting holy shrines. So this has become the condition. This had become the condition of women in medieval ages. It was believed that if women went out, they might get involved in immoral activities. As a custom, rulers and nobles married many women and kept slave girls in a place called harem. Their women, while not always getting a very good treatment from them, were considered as their honor. The Rajputs, especially after being defeated in wars, killed their wives and slave girls in order to save their honor. I will come to Sati and Johar later. Whenever a war took place, the defeated enemy's wealth and all their belongings were distributed equally among the triumphant army, and even the women folk of the enemy were treated as war booty. So women had become a commodity more in the medieval ages. So the condition had degraded to such an extent, we can say. Women had no freedom, they were suppressed. Women had to work at home as well as in the fields. Their life was very hard and without love and respect. Among the Hindus, the custom of sati was so common, in which a widowed woman had to immolate herself on her husband's funeral pyre. I will come to the next slide where you see the dignity of a woman. These are different pictures of the Sultana, Razia Sultana, who ruled the throne of India from Delhi. The period was 1236 to 1240 AD. But gradually, when Razia started to take bold steps, she was the first Muslim woman to sit on the throne as a ruler. And Iltutmish, who was her father, he had declared her as her as his higher. She took some bold steps, such as abandoning parda. She used to dress like men and appeared in public without any hesitation. According to Minhas, a historian of that era, while appearing at public places, people could see her clearly, and while she sat on her throne in the court, she was guarded by armed women. Yes, not men, women. The Turkish nobility had no intention to further comply with the Iltutmish appointment of a woman as his heir. They disliked Razia because her policies supported non-Turks more than they did the Turks. Therefore, they disapproved of Razia's bold behavior and started rebelling against her. But one of the major reasons Razia failed or she was assassinated was that the Turks did not want to accept a woman as their ruler. Now, again, I have tried to depict that the Turk nobles, Malik Al-Tunia, she got married to Al-Tunia, but later she was arrested. Just because she was a woman, she was not accepted. This was the condition in medieval India. Now you can see Taj Mahal and a dancing woman in front of. So we have come to the Mughal period. In medieval times, just like caste arrangements, patriarchy was also deeply entrenched. Strict restrictions were placed on the bodies, movements, and legal and economic rights of women. But we also see here that there were certain recorded exceptions as well as variations across religion, caste, and regions. The position of women was slightly better among the Muslim and lower caste communities, though almost every community was already organized in accordance with the law of patriarchy. Next is the slide which shows you some palms. These are the hands of women who went for sati willingly, and later it was forced for women to be a sati. If she refused to become a sati, if she refused to burn with the funeral pyre of her husband, then she was considered as not good. I can say very frankly that she was considered to, like a woman is trying to live without her husband, so she must be having relations with some other person, or she is not of good character. So this was the thing, and due to that, most of the women, to avoid such situations, to avoid property problems, to problems of hires, because Rajputs used to, there were polygamy also existed. So many Ranis, many queens were there. They all used to burn themselves on the funeral pyre. And these structures, the structures which you can see, these were the structures, these were sati. You can see a garland around. They were worshipped a woman was forced to burn herself and then she was worshipped. You see the condition. What was the condition? Mughal administration definitely intervened in sati and tried to discourage it by ensuring that it was a voluntary act on a case-by-case basis. But such interventions remain mostly ineffective. Humayun wanted to ban sati in the case of widows who had passed the childbearing age, but he could not take effective steps to that effect. Akbar, in 22nd year of his reign, appointed inspectors to ensure that no force was used to compel widows to burn themselves against their will. Acts of sati occurred 2 or 3 times a week at the capital, Agra, during the late years of Jahangir's reign. This is what Professor Irfan Habib writes. In fact, sati by this time had become more a common practice, a tradition, a custom among the North Indian royal families, especially in the Rajputana. And in Rajput rulers, Rajput families, it was considered a matter of pride that how many queens burnt themselves on the funeral pyre of their husbands. I tell you, it is a very bad situation. It was a bad situation. Like, it was considered a matter of pride. When Raja Ajit Singh of Marwar died in 1724, 64 queens, 64 women included the queens and the other women's, like you can say sub-queens, they mounted his funeral pyre. Bodh Singh of Bundi was drowned. 84 women became satis, notes Altica. The practice had also spread to the warrior classes of the southern peninsula, though to a much lesser degree than their northern counterparts. I have some more matter. If you need, I can mail the PPT to you, but I will restrict in the given time to me because it is a 27 slide presentation. So some important things I'm trying to highlight. Here you can see the picture. The dead body of the husband is lying and a woman sitting alive on the funeral pyre, and people are worshipping. Moreover, they used to beat the dhols. The drums were beaten so that if she shouts, no one can hear that, and she burnt herself. This was, I can feel that if a matchstick, it burns, and the last part, if you touch the last tip, what happens to you? And how difficult would have been for the women to sit like that live in front of all people, in front of society, to make them happy. This is the condition. You see, Bengal, the most literate state, which was the first station of English people in modern Indian period. So Bengal had the highest incidence of sati, you see, during later Mughal period in the country. The percentage of satis in the Hindu population of Bengal was much larger than what was obtained in the presidencies of Bombay and Madras. The annual average of satis in Calcutta, now Kolkata division, between 1815 to 28 was 370. This is the average. You can see what would have been the number. The average is 370. In comparison, the average for Dhaka and Murshidabad divisions, both predominantly Muslim, were 44 and 19 respectively during the same period. Here again, you see, the woman is lying in the funeral pyre of her husband happily, and people, they have come to look to the situation, what happens. And they used to call her Sati Mata. They used to worship Sati Mata. Like everywhere in history, Here also there are stories of resistance, the women who resistance against Sati. First one is Ahilyabai Holkar, the Holkar queen of Maratha Malwa kingdom. Not only did not commit Sati, but she ruled from her capital at Indore for 30 years as widow after the death of her son too. Sachi Honama was a poetess in the court of Chikka Devi Rai of Mysore, reigned 1672 to 1704. Some other cases are also there in the slide. You can see in the PPT. Next, I come to, this is a picture. We've come to a picture where a woman is writing something. So we had women writers in medieval period. Like we have some women were present whose husbands were totally illiterate and they were highly educated. So such kind of combinations also are seen in medieval times. While observing marriage contracts, documents in Surat from the first half of 17th century, Habib finds that wives obliged the husbands not to marry a second time. The marriage contracts also forbid the husband from domestic violence and ensured a minimum amount of subsistence for the wife. It is interesting to note that Aurangzeb changed the rules. He allowed widows to keep the entire land grants of their husbands for life. This was a big reform in the reign of Aurangzeb. While it is probably the case that middle-class Muslim women were largely illiterate, we also have a picture of a school girl along with her brother painted around the late 15th century. Here also we can see a picture, Gulbadan Begum. She was highly educated while her husband was totally illiterate. Now she is the queen of Jhansi. When Rani Lakshmi Bai became the queen of Jhansi, the kingdom had an army of around 5,000 men. She added a regiment of women, an excellent horse rider. She herself drilled and trained them. Chalkari Bai, who wasn't a warrior by birth, became a commandant in her army. So such women also we witness in medieval and the transition period, when the period was getting transited from medieval to modern. You see, we see, I forgot to take the name of Velu Nachiyar. She was the queen of Shiva Ganga. She presently parts of Tamil Nadu. That time it was called Shiva Ganga. Happens to be the first queen in the history of India to wage a successful war against the British. Velu Nachiyar was trained in martial arts, use of war weapons, archery and horse riding. She was an expert in Silambam. Silambam was an art of fighting using a stick. Now we come to the British rule. What was the status of women during British rule? We see that the family system in 18th century was primarily patriarchal. It was patriarchal in Muslim community also. It was patriarchal in Hindu community also, in almost all the communities. In Kerala, however, the family was matrilineal. Outside Kerala, women were subjected to nearly complete male control. A European traveler, Abbe Dubois, commented at the beginning of the 19th century, a Hindu woman can go anywhere alone, even in the most crowded places, and she needed never fear the impertinent looks and jokes of idle loungers. The house, inhabited solely by women, is a sanctuary which the most shameless libertine would not dream of violating. Many Hindu and Muslim ladies played important roles in 18th century politics, but primarily the system was patriarchal only. While women of the upper classes were not supposed to work outside their homes, peasant women usually worked in the fields, and women of poorer classes often worked outside their homes to supplement the family income. Boys and girls were not permitted to mix with each other. A woman was expected to marry only once in her lifetime. The custom of early marriage, they prevailed all over the country. Evil of dowry, especially widespread in Bengal and Rajputana culture. In Maharashtra, it was curbed to some extent by the energetic steps taken by the Peshwas. Two great social evils of 18th century India, apart from caste system, were the custom of sati, which we have discussed very much in detail before, and the harrowing condition of widows. Ishwarchand Vidyasagar was a reformer who worked to improve the condition of widows, and he was the one who got the act passed to legalize widow remarriage, that we all know. I don't need to discuss more. Some more points I would like to discuss. Sati practice was mostly prevalent in Rajputana. Widows belonging to higher classes and higher caste could not remarry, though in some regions and in some castes. For example, non-Brahmins in Maharashtra, the Jats, and people of the hill regions of the north, widow remarriage was quite common. Raja Savai Jai Singh of Ahamed and the Maratha general Parshuram Bhau, they tried to promote widow remarriage, but they failed. This is a picture I think everybody present here recognizes. This is Swami Dayanand Saraswati. I did my PhD on Swami Dayanand and the role of Swami Dayanand Arya Samajan in the upliftment of women in India. Women's empowerment in India had a long history. Great social reformers in the past, like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Swami Vivekanand, Acharya Vinoba Bhave, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, they abolished ghastly practices like sati and child marriage and worked relentlessly in the past for the upliftment of women in India. Women empowerment is incorporated well into the Constitution of India, which became effective in the year 1950. Many articles, they ensure the right to equality for women, but the question is whether this right to equality is given to women at present. Even now, I can see that males, all the males, they may get angry on this statement that males don't like being subordinate or junior to a woman. When a woman is a boss, they feel very uncomfortable. Now, Article 15(1) prohibits gender discrimination, but has gender discrimination gone from the society? These are the questions which need to be answered. I think many more presentations will be done on women and the conditions of women in this lecture series. The Equal Remuneration Act, I have mentioned some more next. Next slide is, you see the modern period. In modern India, activists like Sunita Krishnan, she's a Padma Shri awardee, we know well, work relentlessly for rescuing and protecting girls and women who are trafficked or raped, and social entrepreneurs like Arunachalam Muruganathan, who invented the low-cost sanitary pad making machines. So he is the person who you can see in the slide is the real Padman, on which that Padman movie was released. Many of the students must have seen that movie, and if not, so please go to your net connection and go to YouTube, and you must watch that movie. United Nations Development Program UNDP also runs projects to provide vocational training and skill building to young women to enable to build their future. Now, human rights. Now, this is a very important slide which shows that actually from where the idea of empowerment came. The idea of empowerment of women is drawn from the context of human rights. Human rights in this sense are broader. It includes basic needs, economic security, capacity building, and skill formation and dignifies social existence. Contextuality, empowerment in Indian context stands for transformation of people belonging to weaker segments. And it means that the hidden meaning of empowerment is not political empowerment, but social and cultural empowerment also. In other words, empowerment relates to the social transformation among women. Empowerment, the idea of empowerment is thus political, economic, social, and cultural as well. We can conclude by saying that women are the companion of men, gifted with equal mental capacities. She has the right to participate in minutest details of the activities of men, isn't it? And she has the same right of freedom and liberty as man has. Men and women are equal in status but are not identical. Point to be noted is they are equal in status but not identical. They are complementary. Pairless pair being complementary to one another, so that without one, the existence of the other cannot be conceived, and therefore it is a universal fact that anything that will impair the status of either of them will evolve the equal ruin of both. This is what I wanted to share with you. Thank you so much for hearing patiently. And
Coordinator Momdali sir, participants and my dear colleagues. First of all, let me take this opportunity to congratulate the organizers for initiating this online wonderful program of online interdisciplinary webinar series. So I wish all the participants every good luck. So, and let us all work together as women to bring about the changes that we would like to see. Thank you once again. Thank you all.
Most respected guest of honor, Meghana ma'am. As we all see, disciplinarity is often a limitation when it comes to research, and we can only challenge it by interdisciplinary researches, which is a timely necessity in the changed educational scenario. Interdisciplinary researches, as we see, is very necessary in strengthening and highlighting research in these days. And we also see that the universities as well as the research funding agencies promote interdisciplinary researches in these days. So it is in this juncture, the research club as well as the history department has collaborated to come out with online interdisciplinary research lecture series, which will give an ample insight to the lectures as well as faculty members and the research scholars all over the country to come up with more scope as well as more talent in showcasing their interdisciplinary researches as well as research collaboration works. So I believe that the collaborative attempt of the Department of History as well as the Department of English will be fruitful in strengthening the coming research group in the contemporary scenario. Let me express my happiness for being the part of this first episode of the interdisciplinary lecture series. On behalf of myself, on behalf of the staff club, let me express my appreciations to the organizers as well as to the participants here. We hope for more collaborative attempt as well as we believe that we could come out with a novel topic as it is presented by Meghana ma'am, which is highly very important as well as relevant. She has made a spectacular presentation with research as well as rich historical content. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, organizers. Thank you.
Appointed Dr. C. Fedalavi, Manager, Mr. O. Abdul Ali, IPSC Coordinator, Dr. Annie Naina, the coordinators of the event, Mr. Muhammad Ali and Mr. Shabir Moon, and my dear colleagues, clients and participants. A very good evening to all. This is an age in which gender roles are being redefined. Though we talk about women empowerment in general, The status accorded to women different from one society to another. Dr. Meghana Sharma has explained how culture has influenced women's empowerment and rights in Indian society. It was indeed an illuminating session, ma'am. On behalf of the Departments of English and History and on behalf of KHN Unity Women's College, I extend my sincere gratitude to you for giving us such a wonderful talk. Thank you, ma'am. My heartfelt thanks to our principal, Dr. C. Saidalavi, who supports and encourages in all our ventures. Thank you, sir. I thank our manager, O. Abdul Ali, sir, IQSC coordinator, Dr. Annie Naina, and the head of the Department of English and staff secretary, Dr. Shainamol A.K., for their support. A huge applause to Mr. Shabir Mohan and Mr. Muhammad Ali for this kind of an initiative. My wholehearted thanks to both of you, my colleagues. And finally, Team Unity thanks all the participants for being with us today. So have a great evening. Goodbye.